Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for another lightning lesson in 2025. And tonight's presentation is being delivered by Team 4788, Can't Control, who've changed their team name so many times that I had to double check what it was, from Curtin University over in Perth. And they're going to be talking to us about the current landscape of FIRST in WA. So very exciting. Thank you for presenting to us tonight, team, and I'll hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Mel. Nice to meet everybody. I hope you enjoy our presentation. We're standing in our robotics room. I'm Harry. This is Jade. Quick bit about myself. I am the FRC Team 4788 Can't Control lead mentor, and I'm FRC Team 5663 alum. And so I did that when I was in high school, and then I left high school. I came to uni, and I started mentoring. I work at Curtin University as well. I am a STEM communicator, which just means I get to do fun and engaging things like this, which is great because that's what I'm passionate about. I also teach second and third year mechatronic engineering.
I'm Jade. I've been a student on Team 4788 since 2022 preseason. I work on a lot of FRC open source projects like Photon Vision and Choreo, and I've also been a student in FLL previously, and I now coach and volunteer for it.
Amazing. Jade is going to step to the side now, and we'll come back when we get to questions. Because mostly with all this history, the older one is going to do most of the talking. Shocker. Quick context on Western Australia. It's kind of huge and super isolated. So one of the big issues we've found in our time doing FIRST and more is that it's really hard to go anywhere, and it's really hard to get anything to us. And so a lot of the challenges we face is around that. Also we do outreach from the top to the bottom, right? And that's 2.53 million square kilometers of land. Roughly, we're going to be going over this timeline today. So 2013 to 2016 BC, before Cassidy, which will encompass a bit of DDU, the Australia Regional, and the birth of FLL. 2017 to 2020, big dreams. 2021, 2022 to 2025, big moves. When I was making this presentation, was going back and forth on whether I'd do one big continuum or whether I would break it up into FRC and FLL. And in the end, I did kind of a terrible mash between, but you'll get the gist. We're going to start with the FRC team and move our way through, because really a lot of what FIRST is in Western Australia is circling around this FRC. And I'll get some things wrong, certainly in the beginning part, because I've reached out to multiple sources about what happened before I started doing FIRST. And I got multiple different answers, and I just picked the one that came up the most often. The FRC beginning for us was in 2013, and that was Team 4788. We got this kit at Curtin Uni for engineering outreach, and we were like, whoa, let's just send it and see what happens. And so we got our robot together, and we headed across to Sydney. At the same time, FLL started. And it was just one regional, it was small, everybody had fun, and it was here in a lecture theatre. Let's start with the team. Team 4788, Curtin FRC, Team WA, officially known as Curtin FRC, unofficially known as the self-proclaimed cashed up bogans. They went to Sydney and made friends with 3132. And were the 2013 DDU winners. That's what I could gather. It was pretty cool. They took probably the hardest photo ever in front of the Opera House. I loved seeing all these photos as I was going through. And that was in 2013. Pretty slow start, but right out the gate, they were happy. 2014, FRC teams. There are now 2 Curtin FRC teams. We've rebranded. We're Project 215 now, which is Team 4788. And we have a new one, Duct Tape, which is Team 53333. Both did well, both were happy. There's a secret third team, which gets lost here, called the Resistors, Team 532 2-2. And they're actually from Southern River College, which has a new FRC team now, but they were run out of Kern University as Southern River in 2014. And so there's a lot of fun. And then, what do you know? 3 teams wasn't enough, so we did 4. And in 2015, we got 5663. So 5663, ground control, whose name didn't change. But 5333 at this point became can't see sharp. Ace of Spanners, Team 4788, enjoyed this year. And in the next year, even more. Slow me down if I'm going too fast here. But Team 4788, Team 5333, and Team 5663 all went to Sydney and competed and did varying levels of success. 2 teams qualified for the St. Louis Championship. This was our first time making it to championship, and it was pretty cool. I found this picture on Facebook, and it says, this is only half the fields, 600 teams competing on 8 different fields with over a kilometer of pits. And I thought that was pretty exciting. It does look pretty cool. I missed 2016. I was just a baby. But 2016 Stronghold was awesome. These teams did well, winning, I think, partially the event and qualifying our wild card. Team 4788 didn't do so well. And that resulted in the axe for the next year. So in 2017 Steamworks, there were only 2 teams. Again, this is where it gets all convoluted. We had Team 5663 and 5333. And a new face on the block. This is where I'm going to start showing up in pictures. In 2017, we did quite well in the robot game, and we sort of started our thinking about applying for the Impact Award. Right, so we won Engineering Inspiration, and we went to champs again. We also had way too many team members for 2 teams, and so we had a little bit of volunteering at the event as well, which was good. We met Woody Flowers in the hotel lobby. That was pretty cool. I think I'm in there somewhere. But Woody Flowers hung out with us. He had a chat to us, and that was brilliant. And we got interviewed by I think that's Early Days Fun, but I couldn't find the recording, and that was devastating. At this point, we were sort of becoming a bit more serious about FRC and what that's going to do. And this was the first time I heard word of an off-season event, right? And so I was like, oh, because the mentors of the time stole, borrowed, took several large boxes, cardboard boxes of the 2017 fuel, and took it all the way from Texas back to Perth. And that sat in our storeroom for probably 10 years. Well, no, not 10 years, half a decade to a decade, where last year we threw it out. So we had a lot of fuel for a long time. And it's a shame we threw it out last year, because this year's FTC game is the same balls. But this was the first time I was hearing that maybe we were interested in running an off-season event. And that sounded like an exciting prospect to me, where, hey, more FRC in WA that's accessible. Fortunately, it doesn't happen for another little while in our story. Our next year is 2018 Power Up. And so in Power Up, we did it again. So we were winners of the 2018 South Pacific Regional with our new friends, Project Bucephalus, and our alliance partner, XLR8. And that was amazing. I remember the feeling of winning that regional, going, whoa, I didn't know we could even do that. And so we started ramping up on the effort. This was also the first time we took our Chairman's Impact Award seriously. We practiced beforehand, and we made a script, and we submitted the essay with a lot of effort. That was spearheaded by one of our team members, Nicole. The year before, we kind of just showed up and talked about what we did. There was no plan. We went to 2018 and we had a great time. This was our first taste of championship playoffs, where 5663 made it to the quarters, only to be knocked out by 1678, who then went on to make it to Einstein. That was pretty exciting. We ran into an issue. We were using pneumatics that year where the pistons bent. They just weren't. And so we went over to our Australian friends, the Barker Redbacks, and I remember this story gets told all the time. Jezza took the piston, went into a huddle of Barker students that formed a circle. You heard their compressor go all the way up, and then just a series of and then he hands back a straight piston. And that was kind of my first taste of interacting with Barker, which I thought was interesting. We also had 2 robots in bags because back in the day we had bag and tag. And bag and tag, I think, was actually a very good thing for Western Australia because we have to ship our robots anyway, right? We have to get our robots from here to there regardless. And so it just meant that everybody had to do it at the same time. Alas, just 2 years later, bag and tag would disappear. In 2019, this was a rough year for us, I'm not gonna lie. We built a pretty cool robot, 2 pretty cool robots, and we brought them on the plane with us for the first time, rather than shipping them by truck. And bringing them on the plane has become quite a common thing for Western Australian teams, getting their robots across to Sydney, and this was our first experience with that. We did it pretty good. The disassembly was great. The reassembly was a little bit more problematic because problem number 1, our plane got delayed, I think 3 times. And so our 10 a.m. flight became quite a late evening flight. And when we flew to Sydney, as you may know, Sydney Airport closes and we could no longer land. So the day before, or the day of the competition, at midnight, we land in Canberra. It's like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do now? And so we have 2 disassembled robots, team of 60 students, and we've got to make it from Canberra to Sydney. So we booked 2 buses and we drive down. Unfortunately, this whole kerfuffle of being in entirely the wrong place meant that we didn't really put the robots together correctly. And this was our first year in 3 years that we didn't go to champs, which I think was actually quite a healthy break for the mentors. Although, speaking of breaks, COVID is coming up, and that's our next point. In 2019, we did a lot of off-season preparing for the 2020 season. We were going to come back bigger than ever because the mentors had decided that we were no longer going to have 2 teams, but instead we would merge back into one. This is the inception of Team 4788 Can't Control COVID. There are a little bit of teething issues of 2 teams with differing ideas merging back into one. But we managed to scrap together a robot that could pick up 5 of the 2020 balls and had vision tracking turret and couldn't climb. But it never saw the light of day because COVID hit. 1 week before the competition, we had to cancel our flights. It's a very expensive ordeal. Everybody was very disappointed, and we all stopped going to school. Nothing happened for the rest of 2020. I don't know if you would believe that, but COVID kind of killed it. At this point, a lot of Western Australian teams stopped doing anything. So there are a lot of WA teams who are like, oh, I'm not sure that we're up to the financial challenge of tackling COVID with our interest in students and building a robot. So we're back to 1, which was a bit of a reset and a disappointment. You know, at this point, we had built up 6 teams in Western Australia, and they were all doing moderately okay. And so we dreamed big. You know, going into 2021, we knew COVID was still around. We knew we were not going to make it to Sydney again. I think there wasn't even a Sydney competition. And so we were like, what the heck? Let's do it ourselves. And so for the first time, we ran the West Australian Robotics Playoffs. The name is the way it is because then it makes a cool acronym. At this point, we built our wooden field, we got sponsors, we got other teams, we built kits for other teams, we got everybody ready, and we hit the ground running. We had probably one of the most awesome events I've been to, and it was our first year. It felt very exciting. A lot of the mentors at the time were like, wow, this is just like old school DDU. They were very excited by that. And we got going. We brought 2 robots to this event, 4788 and 9788. 9788 was a rookie robot, which looked the same as 4788, but was actually just better. In the end, 4788 won. 2022, it's still COVID. COVID was kind of clearing up across the board. We were all okay. We were very excited to go to Sydney. We had officially registered. We were back, but we still couldn't travel. The lockdown between borders had not been lifted. The university was not happy with us leaving, and so we didn't go. We did compete remotely. So our team submitted for the Impact Award and all of the judged awards locally. We set up a camera like I've done today, and we did it. And we were all sitting there with socially distanced with our masks on, waiting for something to happen. We watched the live stream. We spent a whole weekend just sitting in the building next door, and we watched the live stream. And we won the Engineering Inspiration Award remotely. We were back. This was very exciting. We finished work on our robot, and we made it to Warp. We needed to be preparing for the next year, where hopefully we would get to travel once more. 2022 was also kind of a huge year because we had just come off the success of 2021 and Warp, and we were ready to recreate it. But the one thing we were missing were teams. And so we found sponsors again, and we created 8 rookie kits. And so we got milk crates and plates, and we set 8 new teams up with the gear to build a robot. And they all made it to Warp, which was very exciting. That was a big year for us. We also built just a lot of bumpers. I think we built enough bumpers for the whole event, which is 18 teams. And we're never going to do that again. That was a lot of effort. We'll do it for 1 or 2 teams. But we went to 2022. We had a lot of fun. Our robot really struggled to connect to the field. And so this is the one Warp that 4788 didn't win, which I like, actually. I think it's good to not win sometimes. But we were now ready. We'd come off a loss. We were ready to boost our spirit. And we went into 2023. And wow, what a year. 2022 was probably the canonical rebirth of 4788. And 2023 proved that. We came with a robot that was okay. It was definitely better than the robot we built the year before. It had swerve drive, but we were missing that competition experience that you get from competing with other high-level teams who have been doing it for as long as we've been doing it. And so we learned a lot. We learned a lot about robot building. The cool thing to happen that year is for the very first time after submitting for 6 years, we won the Australian Impact Award. And that was something else. That was something we've been working to for a long time. And Australia is a very competitive region when it comes to impact. And so we were super pleased. That Impact Award qualified us for the World Championships once again. And so we flew over, we visited Spectrum's workshop to rebuild our robot, and we did not that great. But we had a lot of fun doing it. Coming back to reality and back to Western Australia, another big year ahead. We still need more teams for Warp. And so we're running new programs. We're running we call it Robot in 3 Days. I've never heard that name used anywhere else before, but it is this workshop that we run at a school, sometimes at Curtin, where teams will come in and we will run through the process of building in 2023, it was the Everybot, but 2024, 2025, it was Kitbot in 3 days. And so teams will leave that with an almost ready or ready robot to compete in Warp. We provide all the tools necessary. For some teams, we provide all the parts necessary. So that's part of our ongoing sponsorship with the local government. And we went to Warp with some upgrades of ourselves. We took a lot of inspiration from good Australian teams and good American teams, and we made our super tall robot short. We changed our end effector as well. I think we called it the Barkerification because Barker's robot was so small that year, and we made our robot half the height. In 2024, things got real, I think, for Warp. 2024 is sorry, it's not. 2023 was the first year at Warp that we got the official field shipped over to us from Sydney. Previously, we'd been playing with wooden recreations of the field. But I think 2024 holds a special place in my heart. A lot of good teams started competing in 2024 in Western Australia. The bar is higher. We start sweating about whether we're going to win or lose. And we had a lot of fun. So we went to Sydney as per normal. The competition is now no longer in Wollongong. It is in Penrith, which was close enough to Sydney for us to go to the Barker Redbacks to rebuild our robot instead of Project Bucephalus. We have a lot of fun there. We compete. We do okay. We win an award. We don't qualify for champs. Breath of fresh air, because I know we have a lot of work to do when we come back to Perth. At this point, we're starting to get the new intake of students, which I'm sure you guys will meet, who are becoming project leads on our team. And so this is a small section of them in the top right corner. That's the mod squad. Mod stands for modern. They're the next generation. Warp keeps getting bigger and better. And wow, 2024 was just a brilliant event. We also made probably our biggest mistake we ever made for Warp. And we launched confetti at the end of the event, and it flooded the whole room. And there's still confetti in my pockets when I wash my clothes. It is absolutely everywhere. But we didn't get in any trouble, which I was super surprised about. 2025, Reefscape. Now we're catching up to where we are right now. Reefscape was probably the culmination of every year we had had up to date. We won the Impact Award in Australia again. We built a robot that we were super proud of. It did well. We made it to champs. At champs, we enjoyed ourselves. We got to mingle with teams like 118 and Paradox. We had a lot of fun. And then we were Impact finalists. Whoa! Some tears were had when that happened. You know, that was something we'd been working to for now almost 10 years. And not just that, we also were picked to be on an alliance that made it to Einstein. Who could have possibly imagined that happening at the start of the year? Certainly not us, but we enjoyed every moment of it. And it only made us more excited and more passionate to come back to Perth and make every team have the same opportunity as us. And so that brings us to today, right? We've just finished Warp a couple of months ago. It was another huge event, another roaring success. I haven't heard any bad feedback. And we had 30 teams, roughly. Was it 30? I think so. Yeah, I'm getting nods. It was exactly 30 teams. And that was so cool, you know, because we're almost at a full regional. The only thing we're missing is money. But what can you do about that? We are working with local government. We are working with teams. We're going to shows. So where are we now? the same place we've always been, making STEM fun and having a lot of fun doing it. And that kind of brings us to the end of the team's timeline. And I hope it contextually sets up the next portion of this presentation, which is what outreach have we done? And I'm limiting what outreach we've done specifically to FIRST programs because that's the title of the presentation. And I don't want to go way over the limit. Let's talk FIRST LEGO League. Similarly to FRC, FLL started in 2013. It was a very bare bones event, and there is no footage of it at all that I could get my hands on. It was held at Kern University, and it has just kept growing from then. I'm going to play a short video. I hope you can hear the sound. Right, that video was from 2015. So we went from basically nothing to this huge one-day event at Kern Uni in the same space we do it now in just 2 years. And initially I was going to do this portion of the presentation in the same fashion as the timeline, like the FRC part. But I think it's going to be a lot more clear if I break down certain topics regarding FLL and generate a timeline from that. The first topic we're going to look at is locations. And so there has been a Kern University event every year. It began in a lecture theater, and when it got too big for just one lecture theater, it moved to our engineering pavilion, as seen in the video. And then it got even bigger, and so we moved it to the Curtin Stadium, at which point it got even bigger, and we got a nationals event. And so we moved it back to the pavilion, and the multiple buildings surrounding it, where we now use the entire south side of campus to run our nationals event. Our event is kind of huge, and you'll see why in a second. There's no longer Kern University Regional. There is only a Kern University Nationals event because we run all of our regionals at invested schools. So there are schools around Western Australia who go, I would like to run an event. And then we go to their school and work with them or work for them and make their event happen. So we get volunteers, we get all of the resources required, we bring the game mats, and the teams sign up. And this works really well for us. So I actually don't know what FLL looks like on the East Coast, but what we would expect is we would have our pits in a gym or in a library. Ideally, it's one big space. Then we would have judging rooms in a classroom, and then robot games in the same gym if it's big enough, or ideally in a theater space. So a lot of schools will have an amphitheater or like a performing arts center. We also go to rural locations. So road trip, I've pictured here the biggest road trip we did, which was 27 hours of driving, and roughly 2,000 kilometers, I think. This was a mentors only road trip because it was just ridiculously long. In this road trip, we ran 4 rural events, one in Geraldton, one in Dowran, one in Kalgoorlie, one in Albany. And that was insane. We do this every year though. These days, we do just little trips to each place rather than one huge trip around all of Western Australia. And by all of, I mean the southern half. But it is a lot. You know, we span a huge distance with Lego League, and we find that the schools that we go to are really enriched by the program, and that, you know, keeps us going. The schools ebb and flow, especially in the rural areas. It's hard for us to get to them and coach them. I know a lot of them might use other resources online, but it can be really hard, which is why we find it so important to travel to their events and make sure that that all of the work is not for nothing and they have a beautiful, gorgeous, big event. Something different we do, something that is the same is gracious professionalism.
Normally it only takes about 3 goes.
This is a short clip of people doing it in Western Australia.
I'm looking
at. I love it, actually. It does feel very cult-like, and we get comments about that. But the atmosphere at FLL events is just second to none.
Normally.
Something we do differently is we do our pits a little bit differently. We, in the room just behind me, have 20 or so FLL tables. All legal size, legal spec. We need more, we make more. If we need less, we leave them behind. And we ship those to every event in Western Australia so that they have 20 pits. And then, you know, at most the event is 40 teams big, and then it's 2 teams to 1 pit. And it just means that rather than having a super long queue to use the FLL table, everybody gets equal access to the same amount of resource quicker. And so the queues become 1 team, then another team, then 1 team, then another team, rather than ask questions about that if you've got them. The other thing that we do mega differently is our robot game and TMS. So pre-2021, we used a tournament management system from the US, and it was good. We loved it. We kept using it a lot, but they stopped updating it, and that was quite a blow to us because it really made our events run smoothly. And so we're like, well, we're not going to take this. We'll just make our own. And it's my understanding now that First Australia has one, but we think ours is better, and it does the same thing. And so we use the TMS system that we developed that is pictured here. So that automatically does all the refereeing, all of the scoreboards, any additional displays you might want. So we'll set up iPads with the time remaining on them. And that all gets managed and hosted locally, which is a big important thing to us because, as I mentioned, when we go rural, there is no Wi-Fi here or here. And services get better in the big 25. It's not so bad, but in 2022, it's a different story. And so we developed our own that runs locally. You run it as an app on your computer, you import the CSV from the FLL in the box, and then it works. And it's so useful. You can then export all of the robot game scores straight to a CSV and send it to your JA to put in the OGS, and it's not a problem. I'm talking very FLL terms, and so you may not know them, and I'll move on. The other thing we did differently, which we got in a little bit of trouble for, but it's fine, is we were running 6 table events before it was cool. And so we would run at least our nationals, which has 48 teams across 6 tables. We have the volunteers for it, we have the tables for it, and so we did it. And we still do it, but we're allowed to do it now. Oh, that's a video of the scrolling scoreboard, which is live and updated. The last thing on FLL that I'm going to cover is Nationals West. So Nationals West started in 2019, was a pretty big deal. The first time I had anything to do with the logistics of Nationals West was 2020. And it's still good, I think. Here's a little video. We're running our Team S background. MC has the MC iPad. The referees have the referee iPads. That's it. Viewers have the viewer iPads as well, but they're not pictured in the video. So yeah, we've flourished ever since, and we've farmed a couple of nice quotes from various First Oz and FLL directors whenever they come over to our event. But having this event is super important to us because of our geographical isolation. It means that teams that are successful will be able to continue to a national level event without having to pay, tens of thousands of dollars to travel to the other side of the country. And now, of course, if they win National Championship West, they do. But usually the teams that win the National Championship West are more inclined to do so. My last slide, but I think I actually should have put an extra one, is the First Tech Challenge. Tiny First Tech Challenge presence in Western Australia. We really tried in 2019 to get it off the ground. I started a team with my high school friends in 2020, and we got a bunch of students to join, and then nothing. So that was disappointing. But we tried again last year. A teacher reached out to us and said, hey, I really want an FTC event. Are you able to help? And some of our students and our mentors independently support that happening. And so that's separate from Curtin. Curtin doesn't provide any support to First Tech Challenge yet, but we as team members do. And then the next slide is, this is a video. I'll play the video, but then I'm going to talk about Robo Academy. That's it for FTC. I'm going to jump back to a Lego related slide. We also run Robo Academy. So Robo Academy sounds pretty familiar to maybe something that you have at your teams, but it's part of our fundraising. We've been doing that since 2016, when we first decided that, whoa, if we're going to be flying to Champs and we're going to be flying to Sydney, we're going to need some serious cash. And so that was one of the things we started, and it continues today. It looks way different now to how it did in 2016, but we're happy with it. It's moving away from Lego as well. It's moving more towards microbit and real programming as Western Australian schools adopt a more computer-oriented curriculum, and we need to provide more than just Lego. And that's going to end what I have on slides, but we've still got tons of time to answer questions. I'm going to invite Jade to come back up here. And Tom, if you've got any questions that you want to read to us, let me know. If you haven't put your questions in yet now, do so now. Step off for a second.
Do you do any online FLL coaching, and how do you make it effective?
Jade, do we?
I think we did do some during COVID, but
Yeah,
not recently.
that's true. We don't, is probably the short answer. Really, the goal of our FLL coaching is in person, right? And so we have a lot more, we aim for a lot of a more, how do you say, deep, hands-on, deep engagement by going to schools and working with them like that. You know, most of our students have at least one team that they will go after school and coach.
What resources do you provide for teams after they leave the school?
After they leave the school, can you read that one again?
What resources do you provide for teams after you leave the school?
What resources do we provide for teams after we leave the school? We don't leave the school until they're ready for us to go, is usually the answer. And if we do leave the team before they're ready to go, it is because they died or something like that. You know, the team stopped running.
We also still have things like our First in WA Discord server, and a lot of other ways for the teams to actually reach out to us. And if they say need like just one of our mentors to come in for a single session, just to like, you know, help them with a particular area that they might struggle with, then we have is it a Facebook group? I'm not in the mentor
We do
group,
have a
so-
Facebook
As
group.
Andrew just pointed out, there is a Facebook group for the mentors.
Yeah, okay. There is a way that mentors
Your
from
team-
teams can communicate with mentors from our team, but I don't know because I'm a student.
You're too young for Facebook, but
I actually had to install Facebook the other day.
really, wow. But yeah, we have Facebook group for mentors, volunteers for FLL, and mentors and volunteers for FRC. We have a WhatsApp group for FTC because it's way smaller. What else do we do? For the Lego, we have a curriculum we're running right now in trial, and that will be posted to our elusive website at some point. That's learn.team478.com. That's for FRC, not FLL. No, there will be FLL
Oh,
on
there's an
that
FLL
soon.
one as well soon.
So
Okay.
how many students and mentors does our FLC team have?
How many students? Oh, 30 students at the moment. And then mentors is complicated. We have probably 5 or 6 mentors who are consistently here during this period of the year, but there's at least 11 passionate ones. Yeah, usually more during build season, just because of the way our program works. You don't have to do this period of time.
How much, if applicable, do more prohibitive travel costs and greater isolation increase the burden focus on a smaller number of teams?
A lot.
Say that again.
Don't figure it out.
Yeah, I'll come and read it at the camera. How much, if applicable, do more prohibitive travel costs and greater isolation increase the burden focus on a smaller number of teams?
Yeah, the answer is a lot.
Yeah.
So we have around 30 teams across, I think it's like 15.
This is for
schools.
FRC.
Yeah, for FRC. For I think it's around 30 teams and across like 15, 20 schools in WA who competed our off-season event Warp. But because taking a team like ours of 30 students over to Sydney is like high 5 figures, 6 figures.
Yeah, in 2025, it costs Kern FRC to bring the mentors and the students that we did. It cost us about $90,000.
Yeah, so obviously if you're a team within WA, now if you want to go to an official event, you need to cover registration, which is going to be $6.5 grand, and then also
US.
Yeah, $6.5 grand
US.
US, and then also travel costs for like, you know, students and mentors on the team, which being like a huge amount of money for a large team like us, but also still for a smaller team. So that means that of the 30 teams that we have in WA, only about I think it was 4 this year.
Yeah, this year it was 4.
This year was four of those 30 teams were able to compete at an official event.
What is the deadline for Robot Cat considering it ends up on shirts?
What is the deadline for Robot Cat considering it ends up in shirts? I will answer this question, but bring these questions to our next lightning lesson. We try and finish our Robot CAD week 3.
Emphasis on try.
Emphasis on try. Usually, I'm just standing there like, please give me the CAD. I need to order the shirts today if we need them before we fly out. And then we make it happen.
And then we still change the CAD later.
Yeah, if you look closely next year at our Robot CAD on our jumpers, and then our robot in real life, it will look different. It will look different.
The different champs robot and our Robot Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think would have happened to the team if COVID didn't happen?
What do you think oh, this is a good question. What would have happened to the team if COVID didn't happen? I actually think we would be doing way worse. I think COVID, whilst it sucked, don't get me wrong, it was a terrible time for our team. But I think if it hadn't have happened, we may not have had the push to start the off season, and there wouldn't have been so much focus on our community. And I think coming out of COVID, excited to return, whilst I was really worried as a mentor at that point that we were just going to suck.
Kind of did.
Well, yeah, we kind of did. But whilst I was really worried, it turned out that, coming out of COVID, it was very exciting to return to a competition. And so even though we had to work our way back up, we focused a lot on our community and a lot on working on ourselves before we were ready to return.
Now that Warp is definitely a success, what's next for FRC and WA?
Oh, now that Warp is definitely a success, what's next for FRC and WA? That's a difficult question because Warp is definitely a success by what metrics? Warp is a success because everybody has fun and stays engaged. But what's next for WA depends on who you ask. For me, the next thing is sustainability and growth in terms of team skill, right? I hope to see other teams push towards getting more teams, but I'm all about enabling those teams to use FRC as a better tool for education. But if you ask somebody else, they might say, we're looking to get 80 teams in the next 5 years so that we could run 2 fields at Warp concurrently. That's Robert. But that's not everybody's version of success. And there's a meeting happening tonight to define what that is, I think.
I think we actually have people.
I think actually,
right
are you in the Warp meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
We actually have somebody in the Warp meeting right now deciding what's going on. Next question. Or do you have something to say?
I was gonna say, I think another big thing that would be really good for us to be able to do would be a regional for FRC, which obviously is a very hard challenge with us being so far away and not really having a huge base of registered teams. But for us, having a regional for FRC would be great because it would mean that all of the 30 teams who are competing at Warp can kind of have that way easier path of coming in and competing at a regional near them. And also it would be good for other Australian teams because they would not have to fly internationally. It's still very far away, but it's closer at least for them to be able to do a second competition.
The barrier for that is that the money is not looking for a regional. The money is looking for an off season.
If you have a few $1 million,
because
you would like to give us
August Warp, the perfect time for West Australian schools. And so the amounts of money we have do not want to move to a regional where it would be less effective. Robert's here. Next question.
Do you plan to grow FTC in WA, and if so, how?
Do we plan to grow FTC in WA? Heck yeah, we do. That's how? Great question. I am doing a lot of FTC stuff myself. the team wanted to do a lot of FTC stuff this year, but have been blocked by various different powers that be, logistics issues and all that. I'm hoping we'll be back for next year. Me and Robert are going to FTC Nationals on the 6th and 7th of December. And yeah, for right now, it's learning what FTC is and how to do it properly, and then implementing that.
I think one thing that'll also help us is obviously the control system unification for 2027.
Yes,
being able to give our schools who will already have to have an FTC, most of an FTC control system to do FRC, being able to be like, oh, now in this part of the year, you'll be able to just buy this smaller upgrade and do that. And then also we'll have a lot of that knowledge base with a lot of our students and mentors who have done FRC will then be able to help more with FTC.
That's a good point as well. 2027, 2028.
2028 FTC, 2027 FRC.
FTC will probably go a bit more gangbusters as the FRC people can switch between. Next question.
What strategies do you use to convince schools and communities to form new teams?
It's a tough question.
I think a good one is having students from 4788 at school. So because that's a very good it's like a way in for us, right? Like if we have a student at school, then obviously that's a line of communication between us and them, but it also allows the school to see kind of the positive impact that the team might have had on that student, and then how they could then bring that to more students by having it at their school as well.
One strategy we do for public schools is that we give them money. If you do FRC this year and you build the kitbot, you get every piece of money that it costs to get a few tools and the whole robot, right? It's free. And then you just have to promise that you'll keep doing it. And most of the time that works. I think that's our biggest strategy. Give them money or give them robot. Next question. That's it.
Oh, what is your favorite FRC game?
What is our favorite FRC game? Charged Up.
2023.
I think
we're like the only
I think
on the team
this is not representative of Team 4788. This is just we
just both individually really like Charged Up.
But I think most of the team would probably say 2024.
Oh, actually, I feel like a lot of the mentors might say Charged Up because for a lot of them it was the only competition they did.
It's true. A lot of our mentors only competed in Charged Up. If you talk to our older mentors, they'll say Stronghold.
Wasn't it like 2016?
Yeah, Stronghold. But yeah, I like Charged Up. I'll give my justification. Charged Up's the first year that I really felt like a real mentor. Something changed in my brain chemistry. I was just like, oh, I get it now, and so I really enjoyed it. Also, the challenge was fun. There were robots that smashed into each other in the middle of the field, and it was quite a complicated pick and place game. That's what I want to see.
I love Charged Up because, well, it was my first year in FRC, my first competition season in FRC. We went to champs. I got to see like the best robots in the world competing, so that was sick. And then it was like a complicated challenge, and you could do a ton of cool stuff. So that's what you want in FRC.
What's your favorite FRC game? You don't have to answer that.
Okay, Mel says 2013.
Mel says 2013.
2013.
Oh.
Colin says 2016.
2013 was Frisbees, right?
Ultimate
No.
Ascent.
Yeah, 20. That's cool. Are there any more legitimate questions?
Yes. What advice would you give to new and developing teams?
What advice would we give to new and developing teams? The same piece of advice I give to new and developing young adults is put your life jacket on before you help an infant or whatever it is. Make sure that you are going okay and then help someone else. Because it's very easy to get sucked into, helping and doing great outreach, especially if you're passionate about it. But if you can't look after yourself, you can't look after them. Was that the question?
Yeah.
Great. Do you have advice?
There are a lot of great resources online. So
yeah, there are a lot of great resources online. FRCdesign.org.
Very good resource.
The fork of FRCdesign.org, learn.team4788.com.
Holy plug.
holy plug. Become good friends with other teams. I think building relationships is super important. You know, especially if you're not very nice to work with, nobody will pick you. So, any more questions? That the chat
I
is
think
empty.
chat is empty, and we are coming up on our designated end time of 8:30 Sydney
Fantastic.
time.
I'm
So we
Well,
might
thanks for
wrap up
joining
the
us,
recording
everybody.
here. Thank you very much, Harry, and the team currently known as Can't Control for presenting to us
Yeah.
tonight. Very
The team
interesting.
formerly known as Ace of Spanners.
And we'll be rebranding next year just to confuse you, Bell.
We won't be.
I
Not yet.
believe it.
We'll still have the same shirts at least.
Maybe change color.
We're not changing the color.
No, you can't change color. That's I can't abide that. Even if you change the name, the color's got to stay the same.
The colors.
We can't decide.
All right, folks. I will wrap up the recording in a sec. And then if anyone's still on the call that wants to ask questions after the recording's done, you're welcome to do so. But other than that, any final words from 4788?
Thanks for listening to us. We hope you enjoyed our presentation. We will be back, not next Monday, but the Monday after, to talk about more of our technical and our operations side of our robot in particular, and our robots, but also some of our outreach if you have any more questions about that. Next time there will be more of us with more expertise in each spot. So you'll be able to get better answers to your technical questions.
All our technical students won't be at exams.
Yeah, it'll be end of exams. But thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Well, thanks again. Looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.